Hello, this is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? Excuse the ceiling fan, I just turned it off. Anyway, we are back from our trip to Montana. It was really wonderful, and I'm going to talk about it more in another video because it inspired me to read a book. What is the name of the book? I don't remember the name of the book. I just remember the name of the author. It's Ivan Doig, D-O-I-G. And it's, the book is wonderful. What is the name of it? Wait, let me see if I can pull it up. It's a wonderful memoir. It's so evocative and beautifully written about his growing up in Montana, way out in the country in the 40s and 50s. And let's see if I can, The House of Sky, it's called. It's wonderful, and I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm about 40%, maybe 39 or 40% through, and I'm kind of excited that I discovered him because I was thinking about June on the Range, which is something that I think Michael K. Vaughan and maybe Sean Standfast and others do, maybe Mark at Book Time with Elvis, and I haven't participated. I think they've done it for 2 years now, and I thought, wow, this would be great to read for June on the Range. So I'm already in my head planning to read Ivan Doig for June on the Range next year, 2024, because he wrote a trilogy, apparently, and I could at least start the trilogy. But anyway, he's a wonderful writer. I had never heard of him before. Montana was just stunning. I really, really enjoyed it. And what I'm going to do is when I finish reading this book, I'm going to review it, and I'll put on some pictures that we took when we were in Montana. It was just, we really, really enjoyed ourselves. But while I was on this trip, I managed to finish 2 books, so I thought I'd give a quick review about them. The first that I had started to read before we left, and this was just an off-the-cuff thing. It wasn't on my TBR. It was The King's General by Daphne du Maurier. And I started reading it beforehand. I finished it, I guess it was almost 50% when we left. And anyway, I finished it on the trip. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. I like Daphne du Maurier. I kind of want to read all her works. So I've read Rebecca a couple of times. I got stuck just rereading Rebecca. Then I read My Cousin Rachel, which I really liked, and Jamaica Inn, which I also really liked. Very gothic-y feeling. This one was a little bit different because it was set during the Civil War in England back in the 1600s, between like Cromwell and the royalty, the king. And it's set in Cornwall, and it's sort of, it's fiction, but I think she based it on some people that really lived in Cornwall at the time. And so it's about a woman who's looking back over her life and the whole, everything that went on during that Civil War in that part of Cornwall. And there's a romance in it. And it was very good. There were some things I didn't quite understand. I didn't quite get why that plot element was there. But overall, I enjoyed it. I don't think it was as good as the first 3 I read, Rebecca, My Cousin Rachel, and Jamaica Inn. I remember really enjoying Jamaica Inn. I think that was the one I read the most recently. But this was good. I would give it 4 stars. It was good. So I enjoyed that very much. And then I had brought along Anthony Trollope's Dr. Wardle's School to read, and I started to read it. I got maybe 15 pages in or something, but I don't know what I was thinking. Anywhere that I was, where I could read, I just didn't have enough light to read a paperback. The Kindle turned out to be a lot more practical because we were all sharing a room together. I went with my husband and our 7-year-old grandson. And so we were all sharing a room. So if the grandson was asleep, I didn't want to turn on a light, or if my husband was sleeping, I didn't want to turn on a light. So I wound up just picking from the Kindle. And I've been hearing a lot about Mary Stewart lately. I think I heard, months ago, somebody, maybe it was Kate Howe or somebody read her, and maybe Mitzi mentioned her. And then the latest mention I saw was just before I left, I was watching Linda Jo Martin's Elder Talk, and she was talking about how she was reading some trilogy of Mary Stewart. Now, long time ago, I remember we had the book. My older sister read it, The Crystal Cave. I remember trying to read it and just not getting into it. And then some months ago, through Book Gorilla, I downloaded Rose Cottage by her. It was like 99 cents or something. I thought, oh, people keep talking about Mary Stewart. Maybe I should try to read something by her. And again, I didn't get into it. Like I started to read it and then for some reason I just dropped it. But I only got like 2% in or something like that on the Kindle. So I decided, well, that might be something I want to read because my interest was piqued again by watching Linda at Elder Talk. And so, sorry, let me sip my tea here. So anyway, I opened up Rose Cottage again and I read it and I loved it. It was charming. It's a very quiet story about a young woman. It's after World War II. She's English and she had one of those very quick marriages where, you know, she met her husband when he was on leave and then he died in the war. So she's a very young widow. I think she's only 24. And she has to go back to her old home because everything's been disrupted. And she comes from a class of servants. So I think her grandmother was a cook at this estate. And they had been longtime servants of this family, like for generations. And so anyway, they had to move from one estate to up into Scotland. So anyway, she winds up having to go home to the home that hasn't been lived in for a few years because the landed gentry that they work for is going to turn it into a hotel. And so she has to go back to gather some things that her grandmother really wants and is left there. And so it's just about her journey home to her childhood after being away for about 7 years after the war and everything, all the upheaval. And there's a little bit of a mystery and there's a little bit of a romance and it's very nostalgic, her just remembering her childhood. And there's a couple of mysteries actually, because she doesn't know who her father was and she's been alienated, so to speak, from her mother. And was basically raised by her grandmother. So it was a very touching and very light story. It was like perfect to read on a vacation because it was very gentle and it didn't demand much. And I could just curl up and read it after a long day of, you know, sightseeing and hiking and that sort of thing. So I finished that too. So 2 more books, The King's Daughter by Daphne du Maurier and Rose Cottage by Mary Stewart. And I'm very pleased that I read both of those. And now I'm reading this wonderful book by, I'm 42%, it says, by Ivan Doig. Just beautiful writing. At first I didn't like it. It just seemed too flowery and too poetic. But I got into the rhythm of it. And now it's just so evocative and just so nostalgic. So yeah, and I loved Montana so much. I really want to continue appreciating Montana even after we left. So yeah, so that's it. So I'm gonna read this, and then I think the next book I'm gonna tackle is The Hornblower for August, which is a Commodore Hornblower. And then I still want to read Dr. Wardle's School, and I still want to read We Didn't Mean to Go to Sea by Arthur Ransom. So I have a lot on my plate. And this end of August, let's see, today is August, what is today? The 14th? The 7-year-old starts school next Monday. And so this week I just want to, my house is so cluttery, I just want to declutter, and I feel very nesty after being away. I want to pretty things up and organize things and get rid of a bunch of stuff. And so that's the mood I'm in. So I'm just sort of puttering and doing things. I really think I'm going to intentionally take a day off of the internet I'm calling it my internet Sabbath in my head every week because I think that helps me focus and it helps me appreciate what I have and attend to the little things that I need to get done and it just makes life a little bit quieter. And I think it would just help me overall. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm not sure what day of the week I'm going to do that on. I haven't decided. Probably should make it the same day every week if I can. But yeah, that was something that I came to that because of the living like Jane Austen for a day, and where I totally put my phone away. That was such a good experience. But also while we were in Glacier National Park, we couldn't get internet. There was no Wi-Fi. And so there were several days where I also was off the phone, and I'm just better. I just have a better day if I'm off the internet. But unless I'm really intentional about it and decide to do it and like plan for it, I just seem to be hooked. It's just like with sugar. I can't modify sugar. I have to decide to just do away with it altogether, and then only let myself have it once in a while. It's the same thing. I think I just have an addictive personality that way, where it's very hard to have middle ground. It's either too much or I have to go cold turkey. So anyway, I'm figuring that out. But anyway, I'm getting ready for fall, even though it's hot and muggy out. The weather in Montana was so beautiful. There were no bugs to speak of. I mean, not compared to here. And the weather was so dry, and there were actually forest fires. There was just one near Glacier Park in Hungry Horse. But the weather was just so beautiful, and the blue sky and the mountains and all the crystal clear streams and the waterfalls. It was just beautiful. It was a great experience. I'm really glad we did it. All right, well, that's enough for now. I've talked long enough. So I feel like there were other things I wanted to mention, but I can't remember. So, all right, well, I hope you're doing well, and happy reading. Bye-bye.